Welcome, everyone. Hello, I am Cheryl Tolentino. I'm a supervising prevention consultant for NJ4S Union Team. Today, we will be having Jasmine Marcus, our prevention consultant, present on classroom culture, fostering positive educational experiences. Jasmine is a prevention consultant here at NJ4S, and she comes with years of experience and studies in special education, sociology, and social justice. While fostering today's youth on race and ethnic diversity, Jasmine thrives on enhancing communities. She will be continuing her education by obtaining a Master's of Arts in Social Sciences with a concentration in sociology, in hopes of enlightening the communities of the social world in which we live and which influences our lives. When Jasmine is not acquiring new educational endeavors, she enjoys creating lasting memories with her husband and children. Coming from a West Indian background, family has always been a huge part of her life, and Jasmine cherishes every moment she spends with her family and friends. Without further ado, I will hand it over to Jasmine for her presentation on classroom culture, fostering positive educational experiences.
Welcome. I hope to provide educators with the tools and techniques to help present students with the most optimum learning environment. When you think about learning environments being optimized, that's pretty much when the teacher creates opportunities for students to learn by doing and to actively engage with materials and people. So their peers, who's in the classroom, building those connections. I wanted to start with a quote prior to diving into all the good stuff. So the quote reads, "Teaching kids to count is fine, but teaching kids what counts is best." Bob Talbert. It's a lot going on in this quote, and that's why I chose it. I would like to hear from you guys first before I dive into what it truly means. So, what do you think this quote really entails? Teaching kids to count is fine, but teaching kids what counts is best. You can unmute or just share it in the chat. Yes, teaching children essential life skills. Also,
Can
yes.
can I
Agency.
hello?
Go ahead, Tahani.
Yeah, to piggyback off my peers, what Jency and Whitney said, it's basically like, instilling morals and principalities into the youth, like right from wrong, the correct way of doing things, and like Jency said, essential life skills.
Definitely. Thank you for that. It is, and I didn't get to read Whitney's. Let me go back. It's a reminder that being a teacher goes beyond the curriculum. Yes, it's true. Get out of the books. Get out of what you have learned. You have to teach them how to be real people. And then Cheryl, teaching kids how to prioritize what is important, the use of critical thinking. Definitely. That is something that is critical for our students today. So for me, when I hear this, I think about teaching the whole child. And that is pretty much what each of you guys touched on. So that is teaching them how to, just develop those skills academically, socially, emotionally, that cognitive development, physical, mental health. So all of that kind of builds off of each other and is essential for the child in the classroom to optimize the environment, right? So good job, guys. You are on task. All right, so here we go. What are optimum learning environments? So first, yes, they are safe spaces. They are positive interactions and multi-level approaches. So one size doesn't fit all, so each student may need or require different things to help them go through the day. That might mean they might need an audio versus reading it off of paper. They may need just more one-on-one time with the teacher or adult in the classroom, or even their peers to help them understand a concept. And to do that, we have to make sure that we are having positive interactions. And like I said before, like they all kind of tie in together. So when you're thinking about these three elements, creating those safe spaces, providing interactions, and critical skills, these are like critical soft skills development. And they all kind of tie in together with these multi-level approaches. Students are more inclined to have actively engagement in the classroom when all of these are available to them. They also feel more heard. You feel like you're seen when you're in a positive space, and you have positive interactions. And also, the students kind of they get the academic part a little better, because when you have that safe space, you are able to go to your teacher, you're able to talk to your peers and kind of connect on a deeper level. Positive discipline is a technique that I've used personally in my career, and it is very beneficial. I feel that positive discipline has several benefits to them within the classroom, as you can see here, um, for the student, the teacher, and just the classroom environment. For students, I feel like they benefit from positive discipline by developing their social emotional skills, which is like their self awareness, self regulation, and interpersonal skills. It can also help them be more empathetic, conflict resolution skills, and also effective communication. And as well as allow them to be more flexible. In life, things happen. You know, you might have a routine that might be shifted for whatever reason. It allows them to be more flexible and also have problem solving skills and a growth mindset. And lastly, for students' benefits, it can also help build those different motivations. So allowing them to not always look for a reward. So like those external rewards and punishments is more of a personal growth. And like you're doing it because you just want to, it feels good for you. Versus I have to do it, so I'm gonna just do it. So keeping that in mind. And then for teachers, I feel that is very beneficial. It benefited me in my past because I worked in middle school, and at 6th, 7th, and 8th, I taught ELA. And a lot of kids don't want to read. They don't want to read things. So unless it's interesting to them. So it was really good to have that positive discipline in place so that they can succeed. So with that, it helps the overall classroom challenges, helps students learn and make better choices for the future. And then when you think about the classroom in a whole, it offers the safety that we mentioned, that safe environment, as well as a welcoming environment for students and parents. You want your parents to be able to come in and talk to you about what they're seeing at home and in school, so that you guys can collaborate together and kind of figure out the best solution for the student. It also helps the students to feel a sense of belonging and respect for their teacher. Sometimes it's hard to build those connections, and this is a great, safe way in doing that, instead of, picking and choosing your favorites. So we have to kind of be collaborative in finding those spaces for everyone. And it also keeps the students on task and engaged in the work, and view in real rules as a fair outcome. So one thing that I did in my classroom in the beginning of the school year was we built a rule list. So this was our contract to ourselves for our classroom. And I did this with each class because I taught about 6 classes a day. So each class had their own set of rules, and we hung them up and they signed it. It was just like a bill of rights. This is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna follow this. So if they ever was off task, they can go back and reflect, hey, I did say I was gonna do this, I didn't do it. Sorry, how can we fix it? And we also would put down what, the discipline actions would be. Do we call home first? Do we write a letter? Are we just apologizing? It's definitely, you can make it your own, but I feel like it's really essential to have, especially in the beginning of the school year, so you can always reflect back. And that's something that I feel that um, teachers, educators should always do, because you have to be repetitive. So, and you have to kind of be on point and have those things in place. This is a continued list of some positive discipline techniques. Use praise. That was one of my big ones. I enjoyed just giving them shout outs. Like, everyone likes to feel good about themselves. If you see someone's on task and they've been having a rough week, give them some praise. Model appropriate behaviors. This is another big one for me. You want your students to act a certain way, you have to also display it to them, right? You have to model that. And you see, provide students with different choices. That means, like I said earlier, if a student is having trouble, you notice that they don't work really well in large groups, maybe have them pair up with someone, or either have them do an audio book versus, reading it themselves. And then listen to your students. They have a lot to say, so please listen to them and help. It helps you create a healthy space and environment. And when they are going through tough situations, they can come to you. They feel trust. They feel that rapport with you. Okay. All right. So we have another quote here. And this quote is by the New Jersey Department of Education. So it states, an enduring positive school climate and culture are essential conditions for fostering learning and positive youth development. Sorry, guys, I'm moving my mouse around. Positive development that result in a productive and fulfilling lives. So I'm gonna read that one more time. An enduring positive school climate and culture are essential conditions for fostering learning and positive youth development that results in productive and fulfilling lives. NJDLE, Department of Education. It's a lot, it's a lot when you think about that in a whole, because we have to foster these positive environments, and they're pretty much saying like, hey, this is what we stand for. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen all the time. So we have to make sure that we are doing our part to make sure that these classroom cultures are built in a healthy and safe way, so that they do feel, fulfilled when they are in the classroom. And I just want to hear from you guys. What comes to mind when you think about providing a safe or development to area of space in classrooms, or just building that culture with your students or peers? You can unmute or you can write it in a chat. Yes, building trust with students so that they feel open to communicate their needs. Yes, I definitely agree with that 100%, Whitney. Thank you. For me, I believe that it's definitely geared toward academic achievements, which is like testing, grades, and things of that nature. But when you think about it a little deeper, it offers like that sense of safety and belonging, as well as trust, and also reduces the negative effects that comes with poverty and other, factors. I have something else in the chat. All right, from Cheryl, I think if we don't provide an environment where students feel safe to be themselves, then will heighten their ability, and it will, yes, I agree. Because you have to provide these areas of growth for them in those areas so that they can feel like, hey, I want to come here and I want to learn. You go to school to learn. Some students feel like, why am I here? So like having them build that willingness to actually be there is critical. Thank you guys. I really appreciate that. All right. So we spoke about what it is. How do we create optimum learning environments? Okay. So we already know that you need a safe space. But what else? So we have a few things listed here. And so we have encourage curiosity. That's a big one for me. I've always liked the fact of like being able to build off of my students. So whenever they felt like an interest in anything, I felt like, okay, I need to take that and build off of it. If it was them being interested in soccer, a lot of them love soccer. I learned a lot from them. Wasn't a soccer fan, but they definitely loved it. And they were always like, oh, did you watch this game? Did you see this? I'm like, no. But just having them talk to you, and they made me curious about it. So definitely opening the floor for curiosity is a big one, and fostering that creativity. That all kind of ties together. So for me, I actually used to love the fact of like having them XY. So like if like I've worked at ELA, so it was more like, what does this, what does this poem mean? What does this novel, like, why? And why are we reading this? So they could kind of figure out, you go do the research. And that was them also doing the work. One thing that I found that was interesting, I would have a, what was it called? Poetry Wednesdays. So Poetry Wednesdays with my students, it was for all grades that I taught. And we would take a new piece each week and we would dissect it. And poetry is kind of hard to, grasp. And that's one of my favorite things to read is poetry. So for me, it was just like, okay, let's, get them into something that I like. And then I would find different tools, of doing that. So they would ask, well, why did they, use a simile here? Why did they use this here? And I'm like, oh, you tell me. Like, what does this mean? And then they would kind of go and research it, and they loved it. And they didn't know that at the end, they were building their own, rapport and like learning more than they expected because they were doing the work. Curiosity is very important to help develop stimulation in the brain, and it boosts learning and retention. So all of this kind of ties in together for them, and they don't know that they're doing it. So it's a little trick that you can use up your sleeve when you're teaching your classrooms. It also develops the critical thinking skills, like Cheryl mentioned earlier. It's really critical, right? And also encouraging creativity and innovation, and just a foster of a love of learning. So it all ties in together. Also, a big one that I want to mention is making space and room for unstructured learning. So I know structure is a big one for a lot of educators. You want things to be on task for a lot of us in general, you just want something structured, but you have to make time for those, unplanned activities where your student might have a question and you may not know the answer to it. That's okay. Give them the time to, explore that question deeper and let them know, hey, I'm not sure what that might be. Hey, let's go figure it out together. Like, take out your Chromebooks, let's search it, because you are human. We don't know everything, right? So we are okay to mess up, and they actually love that. So it makes them feel like, oh, you didn't know that? Oh, I'm gonna show you. And it just makes it feel really good, and it helps that positive environment. And also have them do the research and just be genuine in the whole space, creating these spaces. So I have a question for you guys. Come up. All right, here's some more. I moved too quick. Here's some more options for building your optimized learning environments. So it says here, build a supportive environment, definitely. Improve school identification. So that can mean a lot of things depending on your school. Definitely build off of that. And embrace diversity. That's the big one. We all are different. We come from different backgrounds. Build off of that. Make sure you have some things in place. For me, ELA was easy because I could pull pieces from different people and have them read it, especially during certain, heritage months and stuff like that. So definitely build on that in your classrooms. Okay, some engagement strategies. Okay, so this is another big one that you need to really take some notes on if needed, is engage with your students' interests. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't know about soccer at all, but they definitely told me, and I found some soccer pieces, some novels that they can read, and they loved it. And then also fill in times in between your lessons. That's also really needed, because that's when students tend to get in trouble. Because when they are free and are done with their work, and we always have early finishers, give them that space to work on a project. I felt like projects was a big thing, so I would do that every so often. Mainly with my Wednesdays used to be short, so that's why I did the poetry Wednesdays. So they would have a project to kind of tie into that. So when you're done with your work, hey, go pull out your project, work on your project, just to fill in those gaps. And also have not busy work, as they like to call it, like coloring sheets and things of that nature. But hey, it might work for certain students to kind of decompress, and that's like a form of meditation for them. So if that works for your classroom, by all means, use it, utilize that. It's definitely it's beneficial in the long run, believe me. And these are a few more. So I want to ask you, what are some strategies that you wish were used in your educational experience? Please unmute or write in the chat. I know for me, it probably would be teachers kind of finding my interest. Like when I was young, I loved music, I loved science, but it was more or less like, hey, do we have something that can tailor toward this? Or, things of that nature. That's kind of those meaningful lessons and things of that nature. I feel like that's definitely beneficial. Okay, Rachel. I wish my teachers in high and middle school took the chance to understand us and learn our interests. Yes, I agree. I love the give. Yes, give students a say. That is, it's amazing when you do that, because honestly, they feel like they have some type of power in the classroom, and that they feel heard and their needs are met is amazing. Yes, I agree, Jency, that adults tend to dismiss children, and it makes them feel belittled, and it makes them feel less than when they really aren't. So we're creating those negative experiences by doing that. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Whitney, okay. Have more opportunities in college than middle and high school, but definitely being able to pick the topic of the paper or project. Yes. Ways, interest. Yes, definitely. I did that a lot. And it's sad, because they always say like certain projects you can't really tailor it to their interests, but you really can. You can give them different options, and it might not be, about hair or nails or something of that nature, but it could be something like the research behind that. Why do we do this? And letting them kind of tailor their projects in reference to that. I did a project of origami during, nucleus. That's amazing. Did you get to pick that, Khadija? Okay, great. That's all that matters. She did enjoy it. You had fun. Thank you guys. I really appreciate that. Very insightful. I feel like we all need different things, and it's really critical to make sure that we are giving that to our students. And it's bad because, sometimes you don't notice this until you're older and you're out of school, and you're like, oh, I really could have used that back then. But if we can give that to our students right now, prior to them being adults, I feel like is really beneficial. Okay. So, how can educators increase student engagement? We already touched on a lot of these. So connecting learning to real life, that is a lot. That is a big one, especially for middle schoolers and high schoolers, because they have lives outside of school, and they have real life situations. and living circumstances. So definitely connecting to that and giving them those resources on how to overcome them is really amazing. Get students moving. That was another one that I used to do. I taught elementary for some time as well, and brain breaks were necessary. So getting them moving, putting some music on. I'm Caribbean. I would have Soca Fridays with my students, and they loved it. It was really fun. And let's see, and we have some other here, like engaging, encouraging questions. Yes, encourage the questions. Even if we are unsure of the answer, we have to encourage them. So these are amazing. So some engaging learning. How do we create these engaging learning environments? Technology, a lot of people are like, stay away from them, don't want to use them, but it can support your learning in a lot of ways. And also provide constructive feedback. So for one, the technology I feel like is great because for me, where I taught ELA, it was a lot of resources on, online that was at our fingertips, and different tours that they can do online. So it's just, I feel like if you find the right tools, it can be really supportive in your everyday classroom, use. Providing that constructive feedback allows students to, voice their needs and wants, and then give them the feedback like, hey, this is why we're doing this is why we can't do this, and then you go back to that rule chart that you created in the beginning, and you can kind of figure out that as well, as far as like your feedback and being constructive with your feedback. Yes, love discussion groups online. Yeah, it is. Thank you, Whitney. I definitely agree that utilizing the online platforms, kind of, especially during the pandemic. I taught during the pandemic, so I could. It was a lot to get used to, but breakout rooms, letting the kids talk to each other, like, you can definitely build a love for discussion groups through that way. So thank you for that, Whitney. I appreciate it. Some resources that I feel that are really, really amazing and that I've used myself. Sorry. Kahoot. Kahoot is a fun brain break. It can also be as a learning tool because you can put certain questions in there tailored to a subject. And it's all done on your Chromebooks, and it's done as a community base. So the teacher will create the group, everyone gets a little code, you put the code in, and you kind of work together. You can use this for any age group. I feel like I even used this before in professional developments, and I'm like, oh, okay. You're trying to rush to kind of answer the question so you can win. So it gets a little competitive, but it's really a great way to build that classroom environment. Another one is Book It. Book It is pretty much the same thing as Kahoot. I haven't used it much, but my students in the past have loved it. They were able to steal coins from each other, which they loved. So I think that was for them, whatever, they loved it. So we use it sometimes, but it's also another unique game mode way where you can kind of pick and set the questions, and they have to answer them according to that. And then from that, they get to take each other's money. Another one that I enjoyed using was Teachers Pay Teachers. That one is not a free resource like Kahoot or Book It. This one has some free aspects to it, but some of the stuff might be like $1, a couple cents, things of that nature. However, it was really great when you knew you had an idea in mind, and it kind of wasn't sure where to find it. Pretty sure Teacher Pay Teacher has those formats already in there and to utilize. Freckle, I've never used Freckle, but my mom, she recommended it in the past. That one actually tailors to every student in a way that helps them do a pretty much say you have students that's struggling on a math assignment and others are already on like a higher level of that, you can tailor it for each student, which I felt is beneficial and also a great resource to utilize. And I believe it does have some free aspects to it as well. So it meets every student's needs, which is critical, especially when we're working in such a diverse community. We just have to have those resources in place to help our students succeed. And one of my favorite ones that I utilize almost every day was Common Lit. As I mentioned, I was an ELA teacher. So with Common Lit, it offered a large array of resources from, different genres, different literature devices, different themes. It was a lot. A lot of all my poetry came from there as well. They give you the questionnaire afterwards. You get your open-ended questions, your multiple choice, whatever you needed, it was there. And you can also incorporate it into your Google Classroom if that's what you utilize. So definitely check that one out, and it's free. So free is good when you're in education. So definitely utilize that. Has anyone ever utilized this in the classroom? Kahoot. Yeah, that's a big one. Kahoot is a good big one. Thank you, Khadija. Yes, that definitely a big one. Yes. I love Kahoot. Can't go wrong with Kahoot. But I get very competitive where I'm like, I can't get it. Or someone posts the answer faster than you. So it's like, okay. As you guys can see, Kahoot is a big one. Some key takeaways. Set a positive tone from the start. That is critical and essential for your classroom, especially at the beginning of the school year. We're all going back to school. Set that tone from the beginning so they know what is expected of them. Setting high expectations so that they know each day when they come in this classroom, despite what you went through the night before or what you went through before getting here, this is a safe space and we are going to treat each other with kindness. Just make sure you are informing them of these positive tones each and every day. Foster open discourse and communication. There goes that big one. Let them talk. Allow them that space and time to express themselves freely, and it just builds a better classroom culture in a whole. Create an inclusive environment that ties in with that as well. Like I mentioned, we are a huge diverse community, and we just need to make sure that everyone is included, no matter their background. And then organize your lessons to support students. That means a lot. You have to make sure that you are tailoring it towards each student and their personal needs. And that is all. Thank you all. I hope that you have learned some new tools and techniques on building and fostering classroom positive culture.
I have a question.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts about like giving students homework during break?
I have never done this. So for me, you have a big project prior to taking that week break. A lot of people tend to enjoy doing that because they feel that it helps the students retain what they would, they don't learn anything, they don't regress. So a lot of people do that for that reason. But for me, I felt that you're not going to do it. You're on break. You're not going to do it. It's just a waste of paper. Save the trees. It's not worth that, because a lot of times if they have an issue with something and they don't understand it, who are they going to ask? Sometimes their parents don't understand it, unfortunately, and we're teaching new concepts every day. So I feel like as long as you're targeting what you need to target in a classroom, homework is like a hit or miss. I rarely gave homework as well. The only time my classroom would get homework would be on Wednesdays when we did Poetry Wednesdays, because it was a shortened day for them. if every Wednesday was a half day. So that was when they would have homework because they didn't have time in a classroom day to actually complete everything. So it might be like an open-ended question regarding that assignment. And that was pretty much it because I feel like you do a lot of work during the day and you need that time and space to be a kid. That's a big one for me. Allow them to do that, you know, have that alone time. A lot of them are in activities, so you're not getting home till late. Now you have to do homework. It's a lot, and you know you don't want to have that fight of my my dog ate the homework or something of that nature, and then now it messes up the classroom culture. Like you just want to have a positive outlook on it, and I feel that giving homework for breaks or anything like that is it's just for me it's a waste. I would rather make sure they have all the tools that they need, and then when they come back from break we can kind of go over whatever we, you know, the refresher, like have a refresher for them and then move on to the next one, the next topic or whatever the lesson is. Thank you guys, I really appreciate it.
To thank you all for joining us, and I'm hoping that you'll come back next week. Next week is September, so we'll be focusing on the serious issue of suicide and covering topics such as active versus passive suicide ideation, how depression looks like in the Latina community, and also how seasonal affective disorder, since yes, it is fall coming up, and so what that does that mean and affect many people who suffer from SADS. So I'm hoping that you'll join us. Until then, enjoy the rest of your summer, the last week of it, or and you guys take care.